Hello, I'm Susan Sedensky, the Executive Director of the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. Our show is here to tell you about what's going on at the PNC and also to introduce you to people who work with us and help you in your community. I have Marie Dickson with me here today. Hi, Marie.
Hi, Susan.
And Marie received the prestigious honor of the 2019 Good Neighbor of the Year Award just last week.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm honored.
One of the reasons why I had you on is because I'd love you to talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done for the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center over the last few years. So I thought maybe we'd start with the Weekender Backpack Program. Could you describe for our viewers at home what exactly that is?
Sure. The Weekender Backpack Program consists of providing food for the weekend for children who receive reduced or free lunch at school. And the concern is that you want these children to be able to continue to have nutrition at home over the weekend. Some of the families can't afford it, so we partnered with the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center to ensure these children are getting at least a few meals at home and especially protein that is needed.
That's right. So a lot of people, when they hear about a food pantry, think that we just provide canned goods or peanut butter and jelly, and that makes sense because that's what we ask for quite a bit. But as you know, the Weekend Backpack Program, for example, folks get fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, protein, bread, cereal. It's really more than just weekend food. It's food that really stretches their grocery bill. And most of the people who come to the PNC are working families who need a little extra help. So you in particular took off with the protein, which is obviously very expensive for people to buy meat.
Yes.
And what made you decide to help out with that program in particular?
I find it very, very necessary for children to be able to learn in school and maintain their grade point averages and you know, et cetera, so that protein is important for children. It's important for their growth, it's important for their mental health. So when we received our first grant from the Elks National Foundation, I actually came and spoke to you, and you explained how difficult it was to maintain being able to provide the protein and the vegetables and the potatoes and all the things that they needed. So we felt that the protein was the hardest thing for you to provide, so we said we were going to take that burden from you and try to do it ourselves.
You did, because that's very expensive. And I think at that time, you and I were having a conversation that's coming back to me, and I had actually been doing a lot of the shopping to buy the meat every week for actually we have about 300 kids who are in the program. So naturally when I'm at the supermarket, I've got this giant carriage full of food, and people start to follow me because they usually think there's a great sale. And so I was in line. Everyone always asks where I'm from. And I explained the Weekender Backpack Program to a gentleman next to me. And he got really quiet and he said, you know, I wish they had had this when I was a kid because I went to school hungry a lot. And so, you know,
it's not fair.
No, it's not. And we're talking meals because a lot of kids get breakfast and lunch. And thank goodness, it's a wonderful thing that our schools can provide that for kids. And we just want to make sure that on the weekend and during the summer, kids are still getting that food. Now, you mentioned that you got your funding from the Westerly Elks.
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about that organization?
Sure. So basically, the Westerly Elks is a parent organization of the National Elks. The Westerly Elks, number 678, is 150 years old. And every year, the Elks National Foundation will provide grants. You have to apply for the grants. And so about 3 years ago, I found out that I could become an elk. Women can become elks now. And I became a board member, and one of the things that they do is we write scholarships. And when you write the grant, you apply to the Elks National Foundation. They approve your grant. you have to be very, very detailed as to what you're going to provide. And once you are given this grant, then we can start the work that we needed to do. And so I applied for the grants, and I received multiple grants. Some of it was for cash money, which I donated to the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. And most of it is for purchasing protein and providing food for the weekend backpack program.
So as an elk, this sounds like it's a charitable organization
Yes.
that you belong
Yes.
to, and now they allow women to
Yes,
enter.
13 years
13
ago,
years ago.
yes.
Now, do you do anything else besides volunteer? I know that you are very busy working.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I am. So I'm a board member, and what that entails is meeting a few times a month and making decisions and paying bills and having different fundraisers for the Elks as well as other charitable entities. One of the charitable entities that we're very, very close to, and it's very dear to our heart, is veterans.
Yes.
So we have veterans dinner dances and different things to raise money. We then donate that money to different veterans organizations. Another thing we do is we provide scholarships to a boy and a girl each year who's graduating from Westerly High School, Stonington High School, Wheeler, and Charahoe High School.
Oh, wonderful.
So there are fundraising efforts going on at all times to provide these scholarships. We have another fundraiser that there's a golf tournament every year, and that provides money to donate towards these scholarships and to ENF.
Okay.
So that every dollar we donate to ENF, we usually get about $5 back.
Wow, that's great.
Yes.
That's great. So Marie, was there any person or incident that made you want to volunteer?
Yes, my mother had a great social conscience. She was very concerned about people and children, and from a very, very young age, she taught us to have that same social conscience. When I was, I'm going to say 7 years old, she heard of a family in our district. I went to Catholic school, and they were having a hard time for Christmas. And my mother went around the neighborhood and asked for donations of canned goods and different things. And she came to us and said, "What can you donate? What would you like to do?"
Right.
And so we were encouraged to donate things of our own. Back then, people didn't typically donate new things. It was typically used.
Right.
And so we did that, and I'll never forget it. She took me with her to the house, and the people were so grateful. And it was just a wonderful thing to do.
And you were 7 years old?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of you
Yes.
realizing. It's interesting you should say that, because the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center began with our motto is neighbors helping neighbors, and it is the same thing. We're run by people who just stop by like you and bring us cereal and food and clothing and donations, and I think that it works because sometimes we want to help, but we don't know, we feel maybe uncomfortable going to a house, or we don't know who we can help. We definitely do get tips where people will call and say, "I know about this person," and we will then let them know that they can become a client. So now, after you were 7, you obviously went to school and you became a mom and you were working. And
Yes.
when did you start to volunteer in your own life?
So I've always done some type of volunteering. When my children first went to school, I volunteered with the PTO because I wanted to be close to my children and be involved, and I had a fear of public speaking. So I eventually became president of the PTO so that I would be forced to speak in front of people.
Wow.
And so it helped me. It was twofold.
Right.
I also, I held many different offices within the PTO, secretary, treasurer, fundraiser, et cetera. And at the same time as I'm raising children, I was also going to college. So I graduated from college in 2011.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. When I graduated from college, I decided that, my children are grown, I'm still working, but I needed to put forth more effort in my volunteering. So I've been involved with the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center for many, many years with the Christmas giving.
Okay, right.
And so that's kind of how I started there back in, I'm going to say in 1997.
Wow.
Is the first time I became a Christmas angel.
Right.
What happens is I'm very fortunate. I work with a lot of very nice giving people at Foxwoods. And the IT department banded together, and they all donate money, and then I go and shop for the children.
Okay.
And what happens is, as you know, the Christmas angel, we're given names and numbers. I'm sorry, no names.
Right.
Numbers and what the children want.
Right.
And that's how we started.
Which is, you're right, it's an interesting concept, because a lot of people know that at Christmas we have a lot of toy drives and people can give toys, but the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center is very different in the sense that we ask our clients what their children would like, and we then anonymously, of course, give those items to people who go and buy it. And it's really an amazing thing to see when you come to our agency and there's an enormous room full of red and green trash bags, which look like Santa sacks, and they're filled with the toys that children have asked for. And I can really tell you, I've seen parents be reduced to tears because you really don't expect it. And there's something about the holidays that we have reminders of our own Christmases, or maybe you remember how generous someone has been towards you and you want to give back. And and you know what? It's great for the people who are receiving, but it's equally as wonderful for the people who have the opportunity to give. So I wanted to ask you, a lot of people might be watching you and think, well, I'd like to organize something in my workplace, but I'd feel a little bit funny. How did employees react to you when you asked them?
Overwhelming support.
Really?
Absolutely. We started with the Christmas Angels. We moved to having food drives for Christmas and for Thanksgiving. We eventually, what happened is the women of MIS got together and donated money every month. So we would donate adopt one family per month. We would keep that family for the year, and we would give them things that they typically couldn't afford. Tickets to the movie theater, gas cards, things that were above and beyond, things that aren't rental assistance or oil or things like that, things that could maybe help them enjoy things.
Yeah, and gas cards, people need gas to get to work.
Absolutely.
So I mean, that's even teenagers who are going to work need that. Now, another big thing that you're doing is you have organized a baby shower, because speaking of expensive items, diapers and wipes are very expensive. And so with our Keeping Babies Warm and Well program, we provide those items on a weekly basis to our clients. How did you come up with this idea, and can you explain what it is?
Yes, actually, it is Elks National Foundation has criteria. They have what's called a Spotlight Grant. And the criteria, there's 7 different things that you can concentrate on, one of them being veterans, another of them being literacy and things that go along with literacy. So what happened is I crafted the grant with that in mind, literacy. So part of what's going to happen here is we're going to procure donations for diapers from now until the baby shower on October 19th. And as part of that, we're going to request book donations as well. And so this is going to do 2 things. It's going to give the clients the diapers and the wipes and the things that they need every day. But also with that, it's going to help to inform them of the importance of early childhood literacy, reading to your children when they're this young, when they're in diapers.
So this is going to be held at the Westerly Elks.
Yes.
And anyone in our community is invited.
Absolutely.
And we know that there's a lot of people who love baby showers, or
Yes.
maybe are at the store and love to buy little baby items and have no
Yes.
one to buy for. So we're going to have a party while
Yes.
we're giving to the
Yes.
community. And then 2 weeks later, we're inviting our clients to come to a second party at the PNC. And we'll also have a librarian and a pediatrician there to talk about the values of reading to your children at an early age and child nutrition. I think it's an amazing concept that you came up with, Marie. And
Thank you. Elks National Foundation actually gave me the idea, and then
Right.
all I had to do is just
well, you executed
write the
it.
grant.
You executed
Yes,
it.
I did.
And,
And is the pediatrician comes from Wood River,
Yes,
correct?
thank you. Wood
Yes.
River Health Services, yes. And then also you brought up the fact of nutrition that we really didn't talk about much. We talked about getting food to our clients. But with the Weekender Backpack Program, we do more than just give food. We give very varied menu items. You were instrumental in that. Do you want to explain what you did there?
Sure. If you give people hamburger, sometimes they're just going to make hamburgers.
Right.
If you give people hamburgers with a taco mix as well, now they have an idea. They can use the tacos, they can have taco dinner, and that's going to include lettuce and tomato and different things with the tacos. If you can give people spaghetti and sauce, but if you include the meatballs, you have a meal. There's meals there instead of just giving them individual items that people have donated. I've tried to make it so that it's easier for them to create a meal with, instead of just a jar of sauce and a pound of spaghetti.
Right.
Now they can put the meatballs in the sauce, etc. Believe it or not, Hamburger Helper. It's another different way to use hamburger that's going to be different than just having a hamburger. Hamburgers and hot dogs are absolutely a staple part of American life, but you need the rolls to go with them. So we're trying to make it so that people have meals and not just something that they now have to. And once again, talk about the pork roast.
Yeah, it's funny because, and in the beginning, I think when we first started this a few years ago, parents were a little bit leery. Well, what's this? I've never cooked a pork roast, for example. And so we'd say, well, you could put a little salt and pepper, and we would explain what kind of pan you need and and then they'd come back. That tasted really good. I'll take that again. And you're introducing parents and adults and kids to different types of foods. We're doing that really in a large quantity right now with our garden, because our garden has things like chard and kale and foods that someone might typically not try. And so it's now available, and if it's something like kale, we might say something like you take a little olive oil and you cook it. I mean, someone had to teach me. I think back to, I didn't know how to make a meatball until someone showed me. We all have to be taught. And there's a lot of new foods right now, and we are now knowing that we need to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. And let's give that to people and give them ideas of how they can make things different. And Marie, you've done such a good job at changing those menu ideas with your tacos and breakfast for dinner.
Yes, pancake mix, syrup, and sausage links.
Right, sausage and bacon. I mean, yes, it's breakfast, but you're still getting good nutrition. And with every meal, we have a local dairy who brings the milk. We have bread. We have cereal. I mean, it's a lot more than a few meals. It's quite a bit of food that we're giving out at that point. And then in addition to the backpack program, we've got our food pantry. So that's for anyone of any age living in Stonington, North Stonington, and Westerly. And it's the same, where we always have protein and fresh vegetables and grains. And we're really trying to teach folks this is a nutritious way to eat.
Yes.
So,
yes. And I'm glad you said that about the area that you serve, because the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center is in Pawcatuck,
Right.
but it does serve Stonington, North Stonington, and Westerly,
Right.
and that was important to me as well, because I live in Westerly,
Right.
and it's just nice. That is also the constituency for the Westerly Elks. We have all of our members come from Pawcatuck, Stonington, Westerly, and North Stonington. So it's the same people
Yeah.
that we're serving.
Right.
And
Two states, one community. It
Absolutely.
really is. I mean, it's kind of
Absolutely.
funny that we actually have
Yes.
two different states and we're close to each
yeah,
other.
we're so close.
Now, what about at the holidays? Have you ever come in to volunteer during the holiday season?
I have, yes, to sort food.
Right.
Of course, we've donated a lot of food.
Right.
I think Carol Granata
Yeah.
is one of the organizers
Yes.
of food giveaways, et cetera, is very, very efficient. And I've worked with her in the past to group foods and et cetera.
And folks who haven't been there before, I invite anyone to come to this, because you talked about your mother teaching you about the needs of others at an early age. And our children do need to know that there are people who are experiencing food insecurity
Yes.
in this very apparently affluent area that we live in. Sometimes people refer to people as the hidden poor, but it's something that, people have a lot of pride. People are working very hard, and sometimes we're in a point where we need a little help. But what's nice about the holidays is right before Thanksgiving and right before Christmas, we have lines of people who get the boxes and fill them with the vegetables and the turkeys and the pie mix. And it's wonderful for children especially to see that there are people who need this, and it's up to us to help them in a very concrete way.
And I think the other thing that's very, very important for people to know and understand is that the people at the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center are so kind and so helpful, and there is no judgment. And because we've all been at a time and a place where we could use some help. And I think that they're very, very used to being kind and compassionate. And I really would encourage anybody who needs any help at all to come to the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. And I would encourage anybody who wants to volunteer or get involved in any type of helping your fellow humans to come to the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center to volunteer.
You know, it's funny. I think that's a perfect way for us to conclude this segment, because I was recently reading something, and it was, you remember Dear Abby, Ann Landers, and they were advice columns, and they were asked, what's the biggest question that you're asked by your readers? And Ann Landers said, "Why am I so lonely?" And they said, "What did you answer?" And she said, "I answered, well, go volunteer." Because when you volunteer, you get out of yourself. You're not thinking about your loneliness. And in addition, you meet other people, like-minded people who want to help others.
And the other thing to it is going to lift your spirit. I'll never forget a psychology class that I took in college, where the professor said there's no such thing as true altruism. It doesn't exist, because every time you give, what you receive is a great feeling. It makes you feel better.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
why wouldn't
You're
you
right.
want to lift yourself and make yourself feel better by doing something for a fellow human?
You're right. And I can't believe we're already out of time.
Wow, that
was fast, our first show. Thank you, Marie. It's
You're
been
welcome.
a pleasure having
Thank
you, and thank you
you.
for all that you do for not only the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, but for our community. You are an inspiration to me
Thank
and to
you.
so many people.
Thank you.
And that's it for today. We will see you next time at Neighborhood News.